Welcome back to MTI TV and our special edition on self-leveler application. If you haven't watched our video on surface preparation for self-leveling underlayments, I'd recommend that you start there before you view this one. I'm Dan Marvin, the Director of Technical Services for MAPEI, and once again I'm joined by Sam Biondo, our National Technical Presenter.
Dan, I'm really looking forward to showing you how self-levelers are installed. We have some important tips and techniques to get the perfect results.
Sam, before we do get started, are there any restrictions on who can apply self-leveling underlayments? What I'm asking is this something that a professional should be taking on, or is it something that a do-it-yourselfer might actually tackle?
The answer to that really depends on the size of the installation.
What do you mean specifically?
Well, let's just take a 100,000 square foot job, for instance. Needs to be shot blasted and it's on concrete. That is absolutely a professional project. A bathroom, a kitchen, or other small areas with limited subfloor preparation, this is something a DIYer can do fairly easy.
If I'm hearing you correctly, the important thing is to only work on a job where you can mix and pour fast enough so that the leveler doesn't dry out between the pores?
That's exactly what you want to do. You want to maintain a wet edge between pours. Otherwise, it won't be fluid enough to level properly. It's important to make sure that you do not do a room larger than you can mix, pour, and smooth before the self-leveler begins to cure.
All right, so one more question before we get started. Can self-leveling underlayments be used outside?
Self-levelers should not be used outside. They should only be used inside. First off, most of them are moisture sensitive. Second, exterior installations typically need to be sloped or pitched in order to get the proper drainage when it rains. Self-levelers create a level surface and they cannot be pitched for draining reasons. You don't want to be building ponds or ice skating rinks outside.
All right, Sam, so what are you going to be sharing with us today?
Well, today we're going to be showing you the installation of UltraPlan Easy, our reduced preparation self-leveler.
That's kind of confusing. What do you mean by reduced preparation? We mentioned in our last video on self-leveler subfloor preparation that you needed to shot blast or scarify a concrete floor before you apply a self-leveling underlayment.
That's a good catch, Dan. In the MAPEI line of self-leveling underlayments, we have two products that are what we like to call reduced preparation products. Shot blasting or scarifying is not necessary or required with these products. All you need to do is prime with the proper primer and apply.
All right, can you briefly tell me about the self-leveling underlayments available in the MAPEI product line? I know we have several.
Yes, we do. We make a wide variety of levelers to fit every application and experience level and budget. Our levelers with Easy in the name don't require shot blasting. We have fast setting products where tile can be installed in 3 hours and other flooring in 16 to 24 hours. If time isn't as big of a problem, we have levelers that can be tiled in 16 to 24 hours and other flooring installed in 2 to 3 days.
I do know that we have some specialized products too. When would an installer want to consider those?
You're right, we do. We have products for use in high traffic areas that require higher compressive strengths, others for areas exposed to extreme conditions, such as before the windows or doors are put in place or high humidity. We also have gypsum-based levelers that can be used in multi-housing projects where fire retardants and sound reduction properties are required.
Thanks, Sam. That's a lot of levelers. I do want to remind our viewers that MAPEI has product support phone number that they can call to talk to a live person who can then guide them through the installation selection process. So tell me, at what thicknesses can self-levelers typically be applied?
Well, that really depends on the self-leveler, so make sure you read the technical data sheet carefully and know its limitations. Typically, though, self-levelers can be applied up to 2 inches thick in a single pour, or 5 inches with the use of an aggregate.
All right, aggregate, what do you mean there?
Well, in some cases where you need a deep fill, let's just say 3 to 5 inches, you lay down an 1.5 inch to 2 inch thick layer of clean, dry pea gravel first. Apply the self-leveler, rake this mix all together while on the floor, then cap off the top with fresh leveler to create the desired fill and height.
Great information, Sam. So what tools are we going to need to apply these levelers?
At a minimum, you're going to need a bucket or a mixing barrel, a calibrated measuring pitcher, a 1/2 horse by 1/2 inch drive drill, oval mixing paddle, a gauge rake, and a smoother, spike roller, shoes with cleats or spikes.
Why the cleats or the spikes?
Well, you're going to have to walk in the wet leveler when you apply and smooth it around. You don't want to be mucking up the leveler with your shoes. Spikes will help lift you up out of the leveler so you don't wind up with a foot sinkhole in the final set.
Now the big question, is this going to be a one-man job?
Again, that depends on the size of the job. 100 to 200 square feet, you could probably do it yourself, and you need to be quick though. A medium-sized project takes 3 to 4 people, 2 to mix and carry, and the other 2 to gauge out and smooth. Really big projects require special pumping equipment, and that usually takes 5 to 6 people.
Okay, so how is this going to work? Can you walk us through the steps?
Yep. Remember that we've already prepared the surface and primed the floor in our last video. So we're ready to begin mixing the leveler. First off, read the technical data sheet and the packaging and find out how much water is required per bag. Use your calibrated pitcher and carefully measure out room temperature water and pour it into the mixing vessel. It's really important not to use too hot or too cold of water, as it's going to change how the leveler flows out and cures.
Sounds like you're talking from experience here, Sam.
Once you have the water in the barrel, slowly add the powder and begin mixing with the oval paddle at a low speed. Once all the powder is in, turn up the speed and mix the leveler for about 2 to 3 minutes. Try to avoid introducing air bubbles, as this may disrupt the surface that you want.
All right, so now we've been careful to make sure to add the powder to the water. We've mixed it up thoroughly. How are we going to pour and finish this leveler?
That's another good question. You want to start in the corner, making sure you work your way out the door. Pour out the entire contents of the mixing barrel and send it back to be refilled. Use your gauge rake and move the liquid leveler around till it starts to find its level at the appropriate fill height. Remember that you want to have at least 1/8 of an inch of leveler at the top of the highest spot on that subfloor.
All right, so is that it?
Not quite. Once the leveler has been raked out, you should follow it with the smoother. The smoother helps blend the surface of multiple pours and creates that super flat surface that we're all hoping for. You can also use a spike roller to help kick out any air bubbles and help blend multiple pours, but you always want to finish with the smoother.
All right, so at this point we're in and we're smooth. How do we do the cleanup for this project?
Cleanup is with water while the leveler is still wet. If it dries on you or on your tools, you're going to have to go after it with a mechanical action like a hammer or scraper.
When can we walk on this particular surface?
Well, now you have to remember, this was ultra plain easy, so you can walk on it in about 3 hours. You also can install ceramic tile on it by then using a cement-based mortar, and other flooring is going to take 16 to 24 hours. Other levelers have different requirements, so check the technical data sheet.
Sam, if you had to leave us with just one thought on self-levelers, what would that be?
Not to use more water than what is called for in the technical data sheet. If there's too much water, the self-leveler won't perform the way it should. Other than that, it's just a matter of getting comfortable with the product and knowing how to install it.
Having a smooth, flat surface is sure going to make this installation a whole lot easier. Sam, thank you for a great background on self-levelers. This was really interesting for me, and I'm sure for everybody who's watching.
Dan, it was my pleasure.
Well, this is Dan Marvin. Sam and I want to thank you for watching this MTI TV episode on applying self-leveling underlayments. Be sure to check back in with us at www.mapei.com for more information-packed videos on MAPEI installation products.